In the House, it's Representative Price Wallace, Mississippi House of Representative, District 77, Rankin County and Simpson County. Price, I don't know, every time you hear something new from this guy, you just shake your head and says, we live in America. Is it possible that this guy knows what's going on?
I'm just blown away sometimes. I can't believe that someone that is in president of the United States is that incompetent.
Well, and we've overused them. If they tax us on the words, this is insane, this is bizarre, this is incredible, and I don't believe this, we would be all millionaires if it were, or we would be broke if they'd be taxing us.
Exactly.
But it's just crazy. It is truly insane. Speaking of which, we've been dealing with this one now, and it looks like, have you heard anything, or is the parole board expected to release him tomorrow? Because they said around May 16th, so I don't think there is a definitive date yet.
As far as I know, Paul, I mean, that's what they're still planning on. I mean, I hadn't heard any difference from the parole board. And I do know that a parole board member resigned this past Friday.
Who was that?
Tony Smith. I haven't spoke, with anyone from the parole board, but I just found it out last night, matter of fact. So I don't know if this
that's news to me. But Tony's a good man. He's been on the program many times. Tony has been in the legislature, as you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I know that Tony had some problems with this. And I had placed a couple of calls to him, haven't heard back, but I'm not surprised.
Well, like I said, I just found out last night, and I do know that he was one of the no votes on this parole. So, and I'm sure that he has probably been having a lot of phone calls, and I could see where somewhere or another you just have to say I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I don't blame the man, but I mean this is a travesty.
You're not on the committee there, but you are from that county in Rankin County.
I'm from Simpson County. Yesterday there in Mendenhall. Matter of fact, Zeno's uncle Don Rankin lives about a mile and a half away from me. So I mean I know the family. I don't necessarily know Zeno. I just recently met him since all this has taken place, but I've known Don for a very long time. It's terrible what took place. I know I was called right after Don's wife received the letter informing the family that James was fixing to be paroled. I mean, he called it. I think they got it on over the weekend, on like about April the 15th, 16th, somewhere around there. And Don called me the first thing Monday morning and asked us, is there anything that you can do? And, and I told him, I said, look, I'll make some phone calls. I can't make a promise. I said, but I'll be more than happy to make phone calls. And I know that I spoke with the Speaker's office. I called the governor's office. I know that Senator Kaufman from District 35 down in Simpson County, I know that he reached out on his side of the chambers and done the same thing. I mean, we've done everything we can do as far as trying to get the parole board to change their mind. I mean, keep this guy in prison. I'll say this: I'm happy for anybody that finds Jesus. Praise the Lord. But you still have to serve your time. I mean, you still have to pay for what you've done, and he has not paid it. So I just cannot, for life of me, understand where the parole board came up with this to parole this guy.
Isn't there some other elements in here also? Is because even if he did find Jesus, and as you said, hopefully he has, doesn't the parole board have any? And I don't know this. I'm a layman out here, and I can't even speak to what the overall duties of the parole board happen to be as far as legality. But it just seems to me that they would have a responsibility, or somewhere in the chain of responsibilities, to make sure that not only physical, but certainly mental rehabilitation has been accomplished before you send someone out who's been only in jail for less than 10 years per murder, 20 years total. And then you look at the possibility of maybe he is, maybe he's not, of the mental status that if you get on the outside, there's a lot of trauma going on. I mean, here's a guy that tried to apparently poison his family. That didn't work. So he shot the father, 9 times? And shot the mother in the head. And then apparently dismembered them to put them in the bags. So, and then discarded them. So, isn't a psychiatric evaluation before he is released, has that been done? And why wouldn't it be up to the parole board to at least make the family and friends and anybody in the area, the neighborhood where this guy is going to be released, feel a little bit confident? I don't think they've done any PR at all. It's like, we're the parole board, we're doing this, and screw you.
That's the way I see it. You're right. I mean, I don't think there has been a psychiatric evaluation. And what I understand is if he is paroled tomorrow, he's supposed to be going living with his mother in Brandon. So if I was a resident of Brandon, I would be throwing a fit. I wouldn't want him in my neighborhood. And I know the what he done is just heinous. Not only did he, everybody knows he killed his dad and killed his stepmom, but then to dismember the bodies and put them in plastic bags and in a rubber tote and then haul them off, I'm at a loss of words for what happened. And I cannot understand why the parole board even thought about parole. I'm going to say this and get this out here on the air. Upcoming next legislation session, I intend on bringing forth legislation where the parole board is required to send out certified mail, and it has to go to every family member of the victim. So that's one thing that happened in this case was there wasn't but one letter sent out, and they was having some issues with another family member that was sick, and it just kind of got put to the side. It was busy with something else. Zeno never got, as far as I understand, Zeno never got a letter from the parole board saying that they was having a hearing. So why did they go about? Why did they forget him? I mean, he's the son of the lady that was murdered.
Go back to Frederick Bell and Angela Hill, Senator Hill, who's on with me. Basically caught that era from the parole board, which required that man to stay behind bars. It seems like there are so many gaps in what the parole board did on this one, and they're just overlooking those gaps of notification, et cetera, et cetera. Why is it different in this particular case?
Paul, I can't say. I do remember that particular parole case. I do remember that a lot of us reached out to, I've called the Speaker's office and myself and a lot of other members of the House, and we, let the Speaker know that we was not happy with the situation. The Speaker himself, was not happy with it, and he sent out a letter, and the parole board rescinded their decision. So I don't see why they can't do it in this case. And this case is a lot worse than the Frederick Bell case.
I think you're right. Got a couple of other questions. Can you hang on for a second?
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you that and a couple of other things. You haven't had a chance. This is your virgin trip into the on the Gallo show. So he took over for a guy named, what was this guy's name? I keep forgetting the guy's name that you took over for.
Andy Gibson.
Andy something.
He is Andy Commissioner Gibson's a dandy.
Was the last name, yeah. How's it been in the legislature? Also, maybe a review of what you thought was the good things and the bad things about 2023, since the session is over for a long time now. It's a chance to marinate. Back with Price Wallace when we return. I was looking at this. They had a protest In the city of Jackson yesterday, they had some family and friends gather to try to make another statement on this one. In 2023, May of this year, just a few weeks ago, the parole board sent a letter stating that the community would be better served with James Williams III in the community rather than being incarcerated. They did not answer the family's questions directly. Family was not present because of a lack of notification from the Mississippi State Parole Board about the hearing. And if that is the case, then I wonder why there's not some type of violation from the parole board. The other thing, too, and I don't know this for sure, but I was told that he had heard the family has never gotten an apology if he did find Jesus from him, and you would think that he would have apologized. So I heard over the weekend that he did send an apology, but it was just almost a gray area of the apology. I'm not sure. I haven't read it. But the thing that upset me a little bit in there is that he said he never poisoned his family. Now, I don't know how to read that, Price, but when you go back and you look at all the testimony, I don't think that was ever in question. But the fact, if he basically said all through this, the family kept saying, and when they were on the air with me, they basically said many times that he keeps changing the story. Is this James Williams III now on the precipice of a parole board release, still changing his story?
I believe so. I do know that he sent a letter to the family. I think, in my personal opinion, it was basically a generic letter that was probably written by his attorney's legal staff. And the way I understand it, when the family got the letter and read it, there was no heartfelt sorrow there. You could, the way I understood it, you could basically the letter was just black and white. It wasn't nothing to it. It was just, I guess, a feel good moment to make him look like he was trying to be sympathetic. But I know that Zeno did not. As a matter of fact, Zeno wrote a letter back to James, telling him, he why now? Why have you? Especially if you found Jesus, why when you became a Christian, why didn't you reach out then to the family and say, look, I made a terrible mistake. I'm truly sorry for this. But no, he waits till right now when you're just a few days from getting out and decides to write a letter. So I don't buy it. I'm like Zeno and the family. I don't buy it one bit. Yeah. I do not think this man is rehabilitated. And I personally feel like he needs to keep his reservation in the room he's staying in right now.
Do you know anything about what I just mentioned as far as him denying that he did poison his family?
Yeah, I heard about that. But from what I have seen, about the case, he did try that. And all, I think everybody, I think your listeners know this all started out over
inheritance.
Inheritance, correct. Yeah. And he was wanting it, so he figured, he tried the rat poison route first, and that wasn't working quick enough. So, I hate to say it, but he just speeded things up. And
have you ever had a chance to sit down and talk with Adam White, the young man who was 15 years old at that time that aided him in this?
No, sir, I have not.
Yeah,
but like I'll say again, I think this gentleman needs to keep his room where he's at right now. That reservation needs to be lifelong.
Well, the culpability is they're immune from any prosecution as an individual as far as the parole board if something goes wrong 2 days from now, 2 weeks from now, or 2 years from now. But it does weigh heavily on the mind that you have someone, and it doesn't prevent him from moving anywhere in the state, does it not? He's basically free.
As long as he reports to his parole officer, the way I understand it.
Right. You heard from the governor at all? Has the governor mentioned anything about this?
Well, I personally spoke to the governor. I think about the week and a half after all this started. I was at a function, and the governor happened to be there, and I personally spoke with him. And he told me he's to send me some information. He had his staff reach out to me, and I, relayed my information to them, and so, yes, I have spoken with Governor Reeves, but I think the thing is he can't necessarily tell the parole board, say, look, y'all have got to rescind this. I mean, I don't. My knowledge is he can't do that. Now, I'm not sure. I could be wrong, but I'm just.
When you also look at the long list of people who are being confined in the state correction system, you got to think. You got to think, Price. There are a lot of other people that would qualify before this guy. I mean, it's one of the head scratchers on here.
Oh, most definitely. Oh, there's a lot of nonviolent offenders in there that could be, if that's what they're trying to do. If they're trying to lighten the load on the taxpayers by, paroling folks. And right now, we understand it costs about $58 a day to house prisoners. In other words, to feed them and everything. So if they're trying to lighten the load on those taxpayers, which I appreciate that, but let's look at the nonviolent folks that could possibly be paroled. But now this gentleman right here, James, and I really don't like saying his name. I'll try to just refer to him as gentleman, but he's the one that does not need to be paroled. I hope and pray that the parole board is listening to this broadcast this morning and look deep in their heart and change their mind before tomorrow. That's what I want the parole board to do.
Price, were you living in the same area when this happened?
Yes, sir. I was living in Simpson County.
So you went through this real time. You knew it, you heard from the neighbors and the shock and everything.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Only got a limited amount of time here, but I want to touch base on the 2023 we were talking about as far as the legislative session. This is May the 15th. Most of these laws become laws July the 1st, the start of the fiscal year in the state of Mississippi. Any particular ones that you worked on that you look back at the session and say, well, I think it was very successful?
Oh, yes, sir. This year, Representative Jim Beckett was appointed to, to the Energy Department. And so he was chairman of Elections and Apportionments. And so this past session, Speaker appointed me as chairman. So we had several bills come through the apportionments and elections, and one of them is Senate Bill 2358, which is ballot harvesting ban. Prevents people that do not have the authority to handle absentee ballots. So the governor signed that. Another one that come through, Senate Bill 2353, is increased poll manager pay from $75 to $125. Now, that won't take place until after December 31 because this year's budget has already been set, for elections. But, that's one thing about elections. If you're going to have a good election, you got to have poll workers there to run that. I tell folks all the time, we can't get elected if we don't have good poll workers working the polls. So my hat's off to the poll workers. I'm a former election commissioner for 12 years, and, I appreciate the job that those folks get out there and do on election days.
And there's nothing more disheartening to have patriotic people want to go vote and have chaos at the ballot, at the polls.
Oh, exactly
because
right.
Inefficiency.
Exactly right.
Man, it's been a pleasure meeting you and also having you in for the first time to not be a stranger.
Does this mean I'm a member of the Muckety Muck Club?
You are now an official Muckety Muck. Perez will present you the gown and the certificates on the way out.
It's a pleasure, Paul. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it very much. Representative Price Wallace, House of Representatives District 77, Rankin and Simpson counties. We will see what happens. Back with more.